Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell. You know what time it is. It is 8 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning, our favorite time of the week. It is time for Sales Logic. I am once again still hanging out here in South Carolina, hoping that my power comes back on by Monday. But we still get to do the show today. Mark, we got a good show on tap.
We have a great show. We're going to be talking about how to follow up with prospects because this is the real challenge. You send over a proposal and things fall apart. So, hey, we're going to be talking about this. We've got a great question from a listener in Chicago. We got a great book, great topic. Let's dive in, shall we?
Let's do it.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
Yes, it is Sales Logic. Now, before Mark tells you what we have on tap for today, I always like to tell you how the show works because I want you to be a part of the show. Mark and I both do. We start the show off with a question from you, the audience. So if you want to know anything about sales, this show is for you. Just send an email to me, send it to Mark, go to saleslogicpodcast.com. We cover a hot topic. We recommend a book. And because we want you to leave with return on investment, you get a lightning round, those strategies that you can implement immediately. So, Mark, what's on tap for today?
Well, like I said, we're talking about prospects. We're talking about how to follow up with prospects, especially after you've sent over that proposal. The question today comes from Chicago. Davis Brow, he writes, my clientele is civil construction, which is very seasonal in the Midwest. When I follow up too much, I risk being annoying. When I try to give them time and space, it becomes easier for them to forget about their need for our service. In addition to better discovery, do you have any advice on best practices for following up after a proposal is sent? I've looked for books on the topic, can't find them. So, hey, I'm reaching out to you two because you guys always have the answers.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Did you get it into the brain this week?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I'm just yes. The brain came back with 8 different things. I'm only going to highlight 2. One is personalize your follow-ups. In other words, you've really got to make your follow-up messages be very tailored to the individual, to the need at hand, very, very specific, because it shows that you're paying attention to them. The other one, it says, you got to make sure you're providing value. If all you're doing is just saying, hey, if you've made a decision, hey, following up, that doesn't count. You've really got to provide additional value with each interaction. 6 other ideas the brain said. I'll tell you what, the brain is really working overtime.
Yeah,
it's only open to members of the Sales Logic Mastermind. So
yeah, imagine that you can put anything you want to, any question you've got into the brain, and it's an instant answer. All right. So we are in my area of passion. Nothing. I think the most important part of the sales system is the follow up, and it's the most neglected. I'm not surprised you really couldn't find many books on it. We just don't talk about it much because we assume that follow up means you keep in touch. It is so much more than that. Now, you said you worry about being annoying. Well, you know what? If you call every couple of weeks and ask them if they're ready to do business with you, you become annoying. You become annoying. Why? Because you made the fatal mistake with follow-up. You made follow-up about you, and follow-up is not about you. So, Mark, I know we're going to have a robust discussion here because there's so much we can talk about. But I want to begin with the fundamental understanding of follow-up. When a customer does not answer you back, you need to realize that 99.9% of the time, it has nothing to do with you. It doesn't mean they don't want to do business with you. It doesn't mean they aren't interested. But so you have to stay in touch with that customer in a way that isn't annoying. So I'll let you jump in there.
Okay, now I'm going to push back a little bit because I think sometimes we just haven't demonstrated enough follow-up, or we haven't demonstrated enough value to warrant them to follow up to us. Here's the situation I see. I see so many salespeople. What they do is they race, and I question Davis. I wonder if you raced to the proposal, because I tell you what, this is what a good discovery is. This is all part of, I think, part of the follow-up, because it's part of getting you engaged in a conversation. I want to have you, the customer, engaged in a conversation with me all along the way. And every message I send has to deliver something of value to you. If it is about me, I hope the customer says, stick it. I don't want to talk to you, because you're right. We are just being annoying. The challenge is, what do you think makes a good follow-up? What do you think Davis should be doing in terms of, he's got this proposal over there? Because I got some theories and some thoughts, but I'll let you go first on this.
Yeah. So, first of all, you have that proposal. And I think, Mark, you are making a great point. Was your timing for proposal correct? If they're not responding to, and I'll give you an example right now. I've got one that's gone cold on me. It's gone completely cold. He called. He was incredibly interested. We got to the point of proposal, but I don't know that I explored the obstacles to getting the proposal to close. I don't know that I did enough digging into what could prevent this from going through. So my follow-up system now is focusing on the obstacles to getting that, like what is in his way, what's got to make him feel comfortable, and how can I show him in my follow-up system that this is going to be a good investment for him. And one of the things that I'm doing is I just finished a job for one of his colleagues, and the job went phenomenally well. I got a testimonial from that colleague and the difference it's going to make in their business. And I'm using that as part of the follow-up, understanding that I've got to get him more comfortable with the process and more comfortable with the investment.
See, that is a great thing, because you used a testimonial, and it's from a peer, and it's from a peer of that person. So I think that resonates as a great follow-up. Here's one of the things that I find so frequently, and Davis, this may be your situation. You sent the proposal over too soon. First of all, you never send a proposal over without legs attached, especially, you're in civil engineering. These are complex. You never send a proposal without legs attached. What does that mean? That means you're walking them through. You're having the conversation. Yeah. You're having the discussion. You are really going into a deep dive. But here's the whole thing. You're not putting that proposal on the table to them until you have clearly validated what are the challenges, what are the needs. Am I dealing with the decision maker? Because I too had a proposal. In fact, it's funny. I just had a follow-up call yesterday, almost out of the blue. Proposal. I was talking with a company back in February. This sounded perfect. It was great. We were locked in an extended duration program I was going to do for them. And the gentleman said, great. And then it stalled out, because what I found out was, even though I was talking to the VP of sales, it was still one more layer that had to get. And I failed to validate that. And it has hung out there. Yesterday, I get a follow-up phone call from him, from the VP of sales, saying, I just was in the meeting with the president of the company, and I think we're going to go ahead and go forward with it, but I need some more information. And this is shame on me, but good on me, because I did stay in touch with him. I had just reached out to him a week earlier, and I left him a voicemail message, gave him some new insights, gave him some information regarding the industry. And that's what prompted him to call back and give me an update on a meeting. So here's the whole situation. Never send that proposal until you are absolutely locked in. And I think, Davis, you probably sent it a little too soon. You may have been driven because they had a contract date. I get that. But still, you got to be careful. Legs attached, have that conversation. And then you've got to remain in touch. For this one, and like I do, and I know you do, it's providing value. It's sending them information, never letting them off the hook. Here's a question for you. When you follow up, how personal do you go? And I'll tip my hat on this. The reason I did was because I had contacted the individual, because he had told me, and I had my notes, that he was going to run the Minneapolis Marathon. which happened to be last weekend. So I naturally sent him a voicemail on Thursday, a little bit of an update saying, hey, do hope you're running the Minneapolis Marathon. I want to hear how it goes. So it was a little bit of a personal business piece, but it triggered a response. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that I think every single follow-up should be personal, whether whether they're running a marathon or not. It doesn't have to be that personal. But like this morning, just before the show, I was following up with prospects, and I came across a prospect and was looking at it on LinkedIn, and he's from Boone, North Carolina. And Boone, North Carolina got hit pretty hard with a storm. So I started it off by saying, I hope you and your family are safe. I hear Boone took it pretty hard in the storm. Let him know I'm in Asheville. We're right there with him. So it was understanding where he was. But I want to talk a moment about the fact that Davis's proposal is out there. We can't take that back. It went without legs. No big deal. You know what? I mean, we've all done it. We all sent the price out there too fast, and the deal has gone cold. They're not coming anywhere. Follow up at this point, when a deal goes cold, the number one thing you've got to be is empathetic. Like, I hate those follow-ups where people say, this is going to be your last chance. Are you getting my emails? I'm assuming you didn't get the last connection. Like, you're rubbing me the wrong way. Use this line. This line is gold with people. I always say, hey, Mark, I understand you have a lot on your plate. You are busy. There's a lot going on in your company. Please do not feel you have to follow up with me. I am going to follow up with you. And when the timing is right, it'll be easy and accessible for you to stay in contact with me. With that phrase, what I get is the permission to keep calling on you, and you have the permission to not respond to me. Now, get there emotionally with me. You are looking at an inbox with 75 emails in it. And here comes Meridith again. You have a whole different response to that email if you feel like you don't have to respond to me. But it is also going to solve the problem that Davis talked about. They'll forget about you if you don't stay in touch.
Hey, I love what you're saying there. That's so key. I always find that I'd be curious to get your perspective. What is the right follow-up? What is the right speed? Because I found if I'm dealing with a C-suite, I'm going to follow up less frequently than I am if I'm dealing with somebody lower down. Is that the same strategy?
Yeah, I tend to do it based on sense of urgency. I just closed one Friday. I kind of like you, they called me out of the blue. I've been calling on her for 2.5 years. I've never heard peep. I've never heard one thing out of her. Never once. She's never responded to an email. She's never responded to a phone call. She's never responded to anything I have ever sent her. And we just closed a deal on Friday. And so when it comes to, I've got a deal right now that there isn't a sense of urgency. He didn't have a date on it that he necessarily wanted to get started. So that one I'm keeping in touch with at a little slower pace. I've got another one that went cold that had a big sense of urgency on it. And that one I'm staying in touch with a little bit deeper speed. Check out Andy's comment here. I never follow up. I follow through to conclusion. Nice phrasing, Andy. Present proposal in person or by Zoom. To Mark's point, give it legs. Pre-proposal inquire when they want the project completed, set by, get the date, set an appointment for personal contact follow through before proposal is sent. Great advice. And when they want it completed.
I love what Andy is saying there, because again, it's about staying in the game and staying in game regarding their issues. This is what's so key. I want to come back to something that you said because it's so valuable. You have a different follow-up cadence, so to speak, depending on the person, depending on the opportunity. This is so key. It's easy for us to get into a routine. And hey, a routine 9 times out of 10 will always win. But there's always variances that you have to make to it. And I like that strategy that you're doing. Hey, I love Natalie jumping in. She's a member of the Sales Logic Mastermind. She says, yes, understand where the customer is and don't assume to know their why for not responding. Start with empathy and adding value. That's exactly what you do, Mary. you start with empathy. So spot on there. That's key, because if they don't, if that doesn't resonate, they won't. That's why I think my voicemail that I left 10 days ago or 11 days ago was, hey, curious, are you going to run the Minneapolis Marathon? I really hope that's working out for you. And then B, I went into a little piece regarding the proposal, just an update I had seen in the industry. And I know that's what generated the response back.
Absolutely.
But this is the key thing. I don't think you're being annoying if you deliver value, if you deliver something of interest.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I mean, here's the other thing too, that Mark was talking about with beginning with empathy. Yesterday, I had a salesperson follow up with me on something. It's a piece of technology that I really want to buy, and I really, really want, am ready to pull the trigger on. But he didn't know when he called yesterday and tried to sell me. Like right now, I don't have any electricity, power, or water in my home. I'm kind of living out of my car, going back and forth between. I'm very fortunate. I have a second house that we took off the market, and I can live there. But when he called me, he had no idea where I lived or what I was going through. And I'm going to tell you flat out, he annoyed me. Because I said to him when he called, I said, I've got a lot going on right now. The timing is bad. And like his good little sales training, he pushed me and he pushed me and he pushed me. And finally, I just let it all out, what I was going through, and that this wasn't my biggest priority right now. Not because I don't want to buy it, not because I don't want it, but because I have way bigger issues going on. And he had not done his homework. And so right now I'm going to tell you, he could follow up till the cows come home. I'm not going to buy this from him because I'm irritated. So Mark is making such a good point. Those little things really, really matter. Like if you called me in the middle of me training for a marathon, it isn't that I don't want to buy the product, but maybe I'm running a marathon tomorrow morning and I'm not going to buy a product today, right? Like you got to know where people are.
Yeah. That's so key. And right now with the hurricane, Milton and Helene, there was a CEO that, oh man, I need to reach out to CEO. And it's funny because wait a minute, the gentleman lives in Florida.
Exactly.
And I had to check it, and he was not in any of the immediate zone. But you know what? I'm just going to back off. I'm just going to wait for a week before I reach out and touch base with the CEO. Because again, it's just trying to be sent. So we do have to demonstrate a little bit of that empathy pre. Now, here's the thing, though. I do see salespeople say, well, that's the reason I don't call on Friday afternoons, or that's the reason I don't call Monday morning. Okay, take that stuff off the table, folks, please. Because again, Friday afternoons can be a great time to sell. Monday mornings can be a great time to sell. But there are perfectly valid times when you say you got to be a little sensitive. I want to go back to something that you mentioned, and it was so key, and I hope the listeners take heed of this. You stayed in touch with somebody for 2.5 years. They never responded, but you stayed in touch with them because you clearly knew that you could help them, right? Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I knew it was a good fit.
Yes. And see, this is the thing. Even though they weren't responding to you, you stayed in the game because you knew that customer fit your ICP. You knew you could help them. And bingo, you got a sale out of it. That's so key. Follow-up is in every element of the sales process. So key.
Absolutely. You've got to stay in touch with people. I believe that a follow-up system is 70% value add and 30% asking for the business, meaning that when I stay in touch with a prospect that is not calling back on me at all, 70% of what I reach out to them is something that is going to help them move their business forward. And 3 times a year, I'll ask for business, but that percentage really works. I want to talk about something else though that David said. He said that business is seasonal. Big clue there, because that means that in my follow-up system, I have to find a way to get them to respond at a time of year that they're not typically responding. So I might be less aggressive when they're in the middle of their season. Let's take CPAs, for instance. I am not going to try to call on CPAs in the middle of tax season. They don't want to buy products. They don't want to buy services. Like they're crazy, but I would take advantage of the off season and say, we have some time here. Let's really talk about the services that I have that can help you be more productive, more efficient. So, Davis, when you said knowing the industry, your follow-up system's got to align with their timing and what they've got going on.
This is why it's so important to understand and be prospecting in your ICP, your ideal customer profile, that you know a couple of industries. Hey, Bill Snow jumping in. I had an owner who had his salespeople follow up on a predetermined cadence for every prospect. Once I was able to individualize it, the conversation ratio increased dramatically. Wow, think about that. That is really powerful. Take that to heed. I love this. Thank you for sharing that. It is about customizing. It is about making it absolutely specific. We got a great conversation going, but the key thing through all this is follow-up is paramount. And that's what salespeople just don't do. Why do you think salespeople don't do that more?
Well, I think it's because, one, you worry about being annoying, or you assume that the customer is on your timetable. And when they don't respond, they're not interested. So, for example, I've got a proposal, the one that I just sent the peers testimonial in front of. He could have landed a massive contract. He could have lost 2 employees. He could have gone on vacation. I don't know why this is stalled. I really don't believe it has anything to do with me and getting the deal closed. Listen, I was working with a CEO and his sales team on Tuesday of this week. And I love what he said to me. And I feel like this applies to follow-up. I said, what do you need me to do with your sales team? And he said, when I was in high school, I played football and I was the quarterback. And he said, when I would have the move, like, the play ready. And I would get my team and I would have the ball and I'd be looking for somebody to throw the ball to. And here comes the defensive line running at my guy. And as soon as they were running at my guy, I had to come up with a new move in a second. And that is the only football analogy I know, because I'm not a football fan, but I love that. And I think follow-up is about getting a new move. What you did didn't get the result you want. So how can you use a different follow-up? What's your new move to get the deal to close?
I love that. That is so great. Hey, time is ripping past. We got to jump to the book. But before we do that, give us a quick update. What's happening in Asheville? What's happening in East Tennessee? Because again, still very much hurricane damage.
I think the best way to tell you what's happening is please don't forget about Western North Carolina. One of our friends from the National Speakers Association reached out to me the other day to let me know that his son is with the National Guard working in a small town outside of Asheville. And just a couple of days ago, they found a group of people that had been completely cut off through the storm, since the storm, and they rescued them. They'd had no food, they'd had no water. We are still dealing with mudslides. They are still finding people alive and people who have not made it. The winter months are coming in the higher elevations. It's at 22 degrees. Most people up there won't have power for another 4 to 5 months, and they don't want to leave their homes, understandably. So we're busy raising money for generators, busy finding blankets, busy finding warm clothing. I do want to thank everybody, because the outpouring has been unbelievable. There's nothing better than community. So thanks for the time. And when you think about the holidays coming, you think about Thanksgiving, think about Western North Carolina, and East Tennessee. They are going to continue to need your help, as well as our friends in Florida.
Hey, thank you. Continue to give. And yes, our friends in Florida, because of Milton. And of course, Helene hit it too. Hey, let's jump to the book. The book comes to us from Dorothy Vernon Brown, The Automatic Follow-Up Formula. I was not familiar with this. I had to check it out. Absolutely. It's on my reading stack, top of the list. Talk to us about it.
In all honesty, I'm going to take Davis's challenge that there isn't a book out there on follow-up. And Davis, I'm so passionate about this subject. I'm going to write a book on follow-up, because I believe in my follow-up system. But this was the best book that I could find. And what it does is, in full disclosure, I wouldn't follow it step by step, but I think there's some really good nuggets in there on building a follow-up system. But the thing that I'm going to say about follow-up that the book doesn't cover is you will excel at follow-up if you do not make follow-up about you. Make follow-up about caring for your customer and staying in touch because you believe you can help them.
Great. Hey, before we jump into the lightning round, Sales Logic Expert Exchange coming up the 4th Monday of the month. We have Larry Levine talking about authentic relationships, authentic trust when it comes to sales. Join us on that. We'll put the link in the show notes for you. So check that out. The 4th Monday of each month, Sales Logic Expert Exchange. Hey, lightning round. Are you ready?
Yes.
Top 10 ways to increase the value you give to customers. Go.
Number 1, spend some time just interviewing and listening to customers and figuring out what their pain points are.
Demonstrate empathy. I'm sure you're going to share that, so I'll just steal it from you.
That's all right. Number 3, give them real clear strategies and ways that you could drive revenue or increase their sales.
4, as you communicate with them, don't hesitate to connect personally, as the example I shared regarding referencing back to the marathon that this guy was running.
Yeah. Number 5, offer to make connections or open doors for them, expand their network.
Number 6, never lose sight that the reason you're following up is because you know you can help them. You know you can help them achieve something. Don't give up the hunt.
Yeah. Number 7, find a way that you could, a message that they're trying to get across to their team or to their customers, find a way to help them do that, whether you share a post that they've done or offer to share a case study or something like that.
Number 8, the routine is by breaking the routine. Make sure that you're using different mediums to follow up. It might be email, it might be voicemail, it might be social media. Use different mediums to follow up.
Yeah. And number 9, if you really want to add value to the customer relationship, give them something that they're not even asking for. Recognize a need that they haven't even stated and be one step ahead of them. Understand their industry better than they understand their industry and truly show up with a heart to serve.
And number 10, if you're sharing something with a customer, share it with them, the prospect. Treat the prospect the exact same way that you would treat the customer. Hey, with that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. Something we've said has earned you a single dollar. Consider telling a friend about our show because it's how we grow when we help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
all of this uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. Remember, Sales Logic Expert series happening the fourth Monday of the month for Eastern. You'll get the registration here. Think about joining the Sales Logic Mastermind. Together, we are going to take our sales to the next level next quarter. And if nothing else, we will see you right back here next week for another episode of Sales Logic. Love this audience. Thank you so much for participation today. You make this show better. We'll see you next week.